Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures, where humanity always rises. The wind moved through the broken stone towers, like a whisper from the past. The city of Varen Prime had once been full of life, but now it stood half buried in dust and silence. Among the ruins walked a young Varen named Kale. His blue skin was marked with the dust of centuries, and his large golden eyes searched the empty streets for anything useful. Food was short these days. Machines no longer worked. The sky above was red with storms. His people had learned to survive by scavenging what the old world left behind. Kale stopped near a collapsed dome. Something shiny caught his attention beneath the rubble. At first, he thought it was just old metal from the wars that had burned this city long ago. But then he heard it, a faint sound, like a weak voice calling for help. Kale froze. Nobody should be here. He looked around, nervous. The Varen Council had forbidden anyone from exploring the lower ruins. They said ghosts lived here, or worse, machines from before the fall. But the sound came again, softer now, desperate. Kale's heart pounded. He took a slow step forward, brushing away the dust. Under the stone, a strange shape appeared. A metallic shell, cracked and smoking. It looked like nothing he had ever seen before. He bent down and saw a small glass window on one side. Inside there was movement. A hand pressed weakly against the glass. It was not blue or scaled like his own. It was pink and smooth. Kale gasped. It was a human. Every child on Varen Prime had heard of humans. They were the monsters from the stars, the destroyers, the warriors of old. Long ago, the Terrans had fought across half the galaxy. But that was hundreds of years ago. No human had been seen here since before Kale's grandparents were born. Yet one was here, alive. Kale hesitated. The council would kill him for helping. They feared humans more than death itself. Still, as he looked at the face inside the cracked pod, he saw fear and pain. Not the face of a monster, but of someone about to die. Something inside Kale refused to walk away. He worked fast, pulling stones aside with bleeding hands until the pod door opened with a hiss. Smoke rose into the cold air. Inside lay a human man in a torn suit, his skin pale, breathing weakly. His eyes opened slowly. "Don't be afraid," he whispered, his voice rough and broken. Kale stepped back, unsure what to say. The man gave a small smile. "Name: Rian Holt. Explorer, ship crashed." Kale could barely understand the strange language, but somehow the words reached his mind through a small silver device near the man's neck. It translated in real time. Rian looked around, confused, and then his eyes met Kale's. "You saved me," he said softly. "Thank you." Kale swallowed hard. He had never heard anyone say that to him before. The words felt heavy, important. "You need help," Kale said quietly. "You cannot stay here. The air is poisoned at night." Rian tried to move, but pain struck through him. Kale looked at the darkening sky. Storm clouds were forming. If he left the man here, he would not survive. Taking a deep breath, Kale helped Rian out of the pod, one arm over his shoulder. The human was taller, heavier, but Kale used all his strength to guide him through the ruins toward a hidden tunnel he knew. They reached an old shelter under the city, filled with flickering lights and ancient machines. Kale laid Rian on a metal bed and covered him with his own cloak. "Why are you helping me?" the human asked weakly. Kale didn't know how to answer. "Because you are alone," he finally said. Rian gave a tired laugh. "Alone, yeah. Story of my life." He closed his eyes. Kale watched as the man drifted into sleep. Outside, thunder shook the ruins. The young Varen looked at the strange human suit, its badges and burned edges. One small patch caught his eye. It showed a blue and white sphere with a single word under it, Earth. He whispered the word softly. It felt strange and powerful on his tongue. He didn't know it yet, but that word would change everything. For now, he only knew one thing. If the council discovered what he had done, they would imprison or execute him. But something about the human's broken smile made him stay. Kale used old medkits and herbs to clean the man's wounds. Through the night, he watched over him, listening to his slow breathing. In the dark, he wondered what kind of world humans came from, what kind of people they were. Were they really as dangerous as the story said? Or were they just lost like him? By morning, Rian was still alive. The storm had passed, but strange lights flickered across the sky, signals from somewhere far beyond. Cale didn't see them. He only heard Rian whisper in his sleep, "Humanity will remember." Cale had no idea what those words meant, but out in the endless dark of space, something ancient and powerful stirred. A signal had been sent, and far across the stars, on a world called Earth, someone heard it. The Terran fleet began to move. 3 days had passed since Cale had found the strange human in the ruins. The hidden shelter below the old city had become their secret world. The air smelled of dust and metal, and the only sound was the soft hum of ancient machines still trying to work after centuries of silence. Cale sat beside the human, who was slowly regaining his strength. His name, Cale had learned, was Captain Rian Holt of the Terran Exploration Corps. The words meant little to Cale, but he could tell they carried weight. The man spoke of stars and distant worlds, of ships that could move faster than light. Cale listened like a child hearing old legends come alive. Every night Rian would ask, "Where am I?" And Cale would answer, "Varen Prime, my home." Rian would look around at the crumbling walls and shake his head. "It was beautiful once," he whispered one night. Cale smiled sadly. "Long ago, before the war, before the sky burned." He did not mention how his people feared outsiders, or how the council had forbidden contact with off-worlders. If they discovered a living human here, they would not see a wounded man. They would see a threat. Cale knew he was breaking every law by keeping Rian alive, but something about the human's calm voice and kind eyes made it impossible for him to leave. Rian, though weak, helped Cale understand bits of old technology. Together, they repaired a small generator, bringing light to the dark shelter. For the first time in his life, Cale felt hope in the ruins. Yet above them, danger was growing. Rumors began to spread in the nearby settlements. People spoke of strange lights in the old city, of ghostly figures moving at night. Some claimed they heard voices in a language not of this world. The Varen Council sent scouts to investigate. Cale's heart pounded every time he heard footsteps echoing through the tunnels. He kept Rian hidden and prayed the scouts would not find them. But one night, as Cale returned from scavenging supplies, he saw something that froze him in fear. The sky was alive. Thin streaks of blue light cut across the stars, energy trails, faint but clear. It looked like someone was scanning the planet from orbit. The Varen had no ships capable of such power. Cale ran back to the shelter. Rian was awake, looking at a small device glowing beside him. "What is that?" Cale asked. Rian's face turned pale. "A beacon," he said quietly. "It activated when the pod crashed. It sends a signal to the Terran network, telling them I'm alive." Cale's stomach turned. "You mean your people know you are here?" Rian nodded slowly. "If they received it, they'll come. Terran fleets always come for their own." Cale felt both wonder and fear. "You mean an army?" Rian gave a weak smile. "Not an army. A rescue fleet. But if they think I'm in danger, they'll come armed." Cale stared at him. He remembered the stories, the Terrans who once fought across the stars, who never left one of their kind behind. He thought of what would happen if the Council discovered the signal. "You have to stop it," Cale whispered urgently. Rian tried, but the device only blinked faster. "It's automatic," he said. "Once it starts, it can't be stopped." Cale sat in silence, feeling cold. Above the ruins, the Varen defense stations began to detect strange transmissions. Council members gathered in secret, speaking in fearful tones. "A human signal," one of them said. "It comes from the southern ruins. If the Terrans return, it will bring doom upon us all." They ordered search teams to sweep the ruins and destroy anything foreign. Cale heard the news from a trader and knew time was running out. That night, he returned to the shelter with panic in his voice. "They are coming," he said. "My people, they know something is here." Rian tried to stand but stumbled. "Then I must go," he said. "I won't let you suffer because of me." Cale shook his head. "You can't even walk to the surface. You'll die before you reach the mountains." He clenched his fists. "No, I'll hide you. Somehow, the next day, heavy ships from the Varen army landed near the old city. Drones flew over the ruins, scanning for energy signatures. Kale moved Rian deeper into the tunnels, hiding him among old cargo containers. The sound of engines echoed above them. Dust rained down with every explosion. The search was getting closer. Then something unexpected happened. One of the Varen drones picked up a faint transmission and sent it directly into space. It was a single word, translated from the human beacon. Safe. The drone's AI didn't understand its meaning. It simply relayed the message into the void. The moment it did, the beacon stopped blinking. Rian looked at Kale, his expression unreadable. They got the signal, he said quietly. Now they'll come. Kale didn't know whether to feel relief or terror. Far beyond Varen Prime, on the outer edge of Terran space, deep space receivers caught the word. AI systems processed the signal, traced its origin, and sent it to command. Within hours, the message reached the Terran High Fleet. Captain Rian Holt, confirmed alive. Location, Varen Prime. Status, safe. Admiral Tessa Koran read the report and stood from her chair. Prepare the fleet, she ordered. We're bringing him home. Back on Varen Prime, Kale felt the ground tremble as more searchers moved through the ruins. He sat beside Rian, listening to the distant thunder of engines and wondering what fate he had just invited to his world. He didn't know that across the stars, a force greater than his imagination had already begun to move toward him. A single word of kindness had been heard, and humanity never ignored a call like that. The first sign came at dawn. Varen Prime's twin suns were still climbing the horizon when the skies above the capital turned a deep crimson. The light was wrong, too steady, too powerful. Kale stood on the broken balcony of an abandoned tower, his golden eyes wide as he watched the sky shimmer with streaks of blue and silver. He had never seen anything like it. The air itself seemed to hum. The people in the city below pointed upward, whispering in fear. Traders dropped their goods and ran for shelter. Farmers abandoned their fields. The alarms of the Varen Defense Network began to echo across the region, their metallic wail shaking the dust from the old buildings. Something enormous was entering orbit. Kale's heart pounded as he remembered Rian's words. If they think I'm in danger, they'll come armed. The human fleet. They had come. The council assembled within the high hall, their scaled faces pale with fear. Elder Vara, the head of planetary defense, slammed her fist on the table. I warned you all, she shouted. We should have destroyed that signal when we had the chance. Another counselor trembled. It's too late now. Their ships are here. The room fell silent as a holographic map displayed hundreds of unknown contacts appearing above Varen Prime. Each one was tagged with the same code, Terran. In the shelter below the ruins, Kale and Rian felt the ground vibrate. Dust rained from the ceiling. What's happening? Rian asked. Try to stand. Kale helped him up and led him outside. Through the cracks in the ceiling, beams of light pierced the clouds. Dozens of ships descended slowly, their silhouettes vast and terrifying. Rian's eyes widened in awe. That's the Terran fleet, he whispered. They actually came. Kale felt a chill run through him. You mean they came for you? Rian nodded slowly. For me. For the signal. They'll think I'm in danger. Kale looked toward the sky again. The ships were like floating mountains, moving with perfect formation. The largest among them cast a shadow that stretched for miles. The city lights flickered as the fleet entered the atmosphere, controlled but powerful. The Varen defense towers powered up, but the council hesitated to fire. They knew the stories. Terran fleets were unstoppable. To attack would be suicide. Open communication, Elder Vara ordered. We must know their intent. A moment later, the main screen lit up with the image of a human woman in a black uniform, her expression calm but firm. This is Admiral Tessa Koran of the Terran High Fleet, she said. We are here responding to a distress signal from this world. One of our own is confirmed alive. Her voice was steady, but behind it was the strength of 1,000 ships. We mean no harm. We come to retrieve our people. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Admiral, Vara said, this is Varen Prime. Your kind is not welcome here. Leave at once. Koran's eyes narrowed. We do not leave our people behind. Send word to Captain Rian Holt. We know he is on your world. Vara froze. How do you? Koran interrupted, her tone cold. Because your orbit sensors are reading over 300 Terran vessels above you right now. We have already scanned your surface. We know where he is. Her voice softened slightly. We come in peace. Do not make us your enemy. The signal cut. In the silence that followed, Vara turned to her advisors. Find the human. Now. Drones and soldiers spread through the ruins. Kale saw them coming and grabbed Rian's arm. We have to move, he hissed. Rian struggled to walk, but forced himself forward. They moved through the old tunnels, the sound of engines above shaking the walls. Through a crack, Kale saw the sky again. It was full of Terran ships, their engines glowing like suns. He could see smaller craft breaking formation, descending through the clouds like rain of fire. The Varan soldiers near the ruins panicked as massive shadows passed overhead. What are they doing? One shouted. They're surrounding the city, another cried. Then, in a sudden burst of light, a Terran shuttle landed just beyond the ruins. It was sleek, silver, and unlike any machine the Varan had ever seen. A dozen armored humans stepped out, their suits marked with the same blue and white Earth symbol Kale had seen on Rian's jacket. Their leader held up a scanner. Captain Rian Holt. The voice boomed through a translator. If you can hear this, the Terran fleet has arrived. We are here to bring you home. Kale looked at Rian, whose eyes filled with emotion. They came for me, he whispered. They really came. But before they could move, Varan drones appeared over the ridge and opened fire. Energy bolts streaked through the air. The first blast hit a human soldier, throwing him backward, but the others activated shimmering shields that absorbed the next wave. The humans returned fire, their shots clean and precise. The drones exploded in seconds. The Varan troops retreated, terrified. Kale dragged Rian back into the shadows. They'll destroy everything, he said. Rian shook his head. No, they'll only fight if attacked. The sound of thunder rolled overhead as the fleet shifted position. Kale could see the outline of the massive flagship now, hanging above the clouds like a dark moon. Why send so many ships? Kale asked quietly. Rian looked toward the sky, his expression serious. Because humanity never forgets a promise. At that moment, a deep roar filled the air. A shockwave rippled through the ground. Every Varan turned their eyes upward as the sky itself seemed to burn with light. The human fleet had activated their defense grid, massive energy fields shimmering like a second atmosphere. From every horizon, the glow of Terran ships painted the heavens. Kale fell to his knees, unable to look away. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Somewhere deep inside, he realized what was truly happening. A small act of kindness had brought an entire fleet of humans to his world. And now, the sky of Varan Prime burned with their arrival. The skies of Varan Prime had never seen anything like it. Massive Terran ships hovered silently above the planet, their hulls glowing faintly in the twin sunlight. The fleet stretched across the horizon, hundreds of ships forming perfect formation. Each one was different, sleek cruisers, heavy destroyers, massive carriers, but all bore the same symbol, a blue and white sphere marked with the word Earth. People across the cities watched in fear and awe. Some prayed. Others hid underground. The old stories of humans, warriors of the void, destroyers of worlds, echoed through every mind. Yet no weapons fired from the orbiting fleet. No attack came. Instead, from the largest vessel, a dark silver ship nearly the size of a mountain, a transmission went out. It was broadcast in every major language on Varan Prime. This is Admiral Tessa Koran of the Terran High Fleet. We are not here as invaders. We come to honor a promise. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of command. One of our own, Captain Rian Holt, was rescued on your world. His distress signal led us here. To the one who aided him, know this, humanity remembers. Always. The words echoed through every city, through every ruin. In the underground shelter, Kale listened in stunned silence. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Rian, pale and weak, smiled faintly. That's her, he whispered. Admiral Koran. She leads the fleet. Kale blinked, his heart racing. She said they remember? Rian nodded. We never forget a kindness. It's one of our oldest codes. Kale looked up toward the ceiling as if he could see the vast ships beyond. But my people, they are afraid. They think you came for war. Rian sighed. Then your people don't understand what the Terran name means anymore. Above them, in the high hall of the Varen Council, panic spread. Elder Vara stood before a large holoscreen, displaying the Terran fleet. They say they come in peace, she said bitterly. But peace never arrives with warships. Some members shouted for defense, others for negotiation. Fear ruled every voice. If we anger them, we die, one shouted. If we trust them, we die slower, another argued. Vara raised her hand. Enough. We must know their true purpose. She signaled the communication officers. Open a direct link with their admiral. Moments later, the image of Admiral Koran appeared again. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, Valiant Dawn, surrounded by screens and officers. Her sharp eyes studied the Varen Council without emotion. Vara stepped forward. You come with hundreds of warships and speak of peace. That does not match your actions. Koran replied evenly. You misunderstand. Every ship you see carries lives willing to protect one of their own. That is not an invasion, it is loyalty. Vara narrowed her eyes. Loyalty that could destroy our world. The Admiral leaned closer to the camera. Only if you make us. Her words were quiet, but cut through the air like a blade. The room fell silent. Vara hesitated, then asked, What do you want from us? Nothing, Koran said. We know a Varen citizen rescued Captain Holt. That act of courage will not be forgotten. We are here to retrieve him and ensure no harm comes to his protector. Vara froze. The council murmured. Protector, someone whispered. So it's true, one of us helped a human. Vara clenched her jaw. If that is true, she said, we will find them. Koran's voice hardened. Do that, and you may find us first. The signal ended abruptly. Vara turned to her advisors, anger and fear mixing in her eyes. They are bluffing, she said. No one sends an army for one man. But deep down, she wasn't sure. Outside, Terran ships formed defensive rings around the planet, ready but silent. In the ruins, Kale sat beside Rian as the shelter trembled from distant activity. They know someone helped you, Kale said quietly. If they find me, Rian gripped his shoulder. They'll protect you. That's what she meant. Humanity doesn't forget those who show mercy. Kale frowned. Even if the act was small? Rian smiled faintly. Especially then. Kale didn't understand such loyalty. Among the Varen, kindness was weakness. But now he saw the truth in the humans' eyes. Kindness was their strength. Meanwhile, on the flagship, Admiral Koran watched the surface feeds. She saw the chaos in the Varen cities, the panic spreading, and the military mobilizing. They're preparing for conflict, her second officer reported. They're afraid, Admiral. Koran nodded slowly. Fear makes beings do foolish things. Keep the fleet in orbit, weapons on standby. No one fires unless fired upon. She looked at the glowing transmission record from Rian Holt's beacon, the single word safe. Her voice softened. He trusted someone enough to send that signal. We will find them. On the surface, Kale finally made his decision. I'll tell them the truth, he said. If they think I hide you, they'll destroy everything. Rian tried to stop him. They'll kill you, Kale. Maybe, Kale replied quietly. But if I don't, there will be war. Hours later, as the sun set behind the mountains, a Terran shuttle descended into the ruins. Kale stood outside, waiting, with Rian beside him, supported on his shoulder. The shuttle door opened, and armored humans stepped out. A tall woman with gray eyes removed her helmet. It was Admiral Koran herself. She looked at the two figures standing in the dust. Kale stepped forward, trembling. I am Kale, he said. I helped him. Please don't harm my world. Koran's expression softened. She walked closer and looked at Rian, who saluted weakly. You did well, Captain, she said. Then she turned to Kale. You saved one of ours. Humanity does not forget. She placed a hand over her chest in a gesture of respect. From this day, Varen Prime is under Terran protection. Kale stared in disbelief. Protection? Koran nodded. Yes. You saved a life. Now we save yours. High above, the Terran fleet adjusted formation. Every ship turned slowly toward the stars, their engines burning bright as they shielded the planet below. Across Varen Prime, the people watched and whispered. Some called it mercy. Others called it a warning. But all knew one thing for certain. The humans had remembered. The days following Admiral Koran's arrival changed Varen Prime forever. The skies that once burned red with fear now glowed with the silent presence of Terran ships, floating like guardians among the clouds. For the first time in centuries, the people of Varen saw something their history had long forgotten. Hope mixed with dread. In every city, the question spread in whispers. Why had humanity come with such strength for just one man? To the Varen, it made no sense. Empires never moved for one life. Armadas did not gather for a single act of kindness. But to the Terrans, loyalty was sacred. Kale did not understand it fully. Yet he felt it every time he looked at the sky. The human fleet did not leave. They built orbital stations, repaired old satellites, and offered aid to the Varen who had lost homes during the panic. Some Varen refused their help, calling them monsters hiding behind false mercy. Others watched curiously as human engineers shared water, food, and medicine. The Council tried to keep control, but their power was weakening. Their fear was turning into confusion. No invasion came. No demands were made. Only silence and protection. But in that silence, the galaxy trembled. Far beyond Varen Prime, in the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, chaos was brewing. Dozens of alien ambassadors shouted over one another, their voices a mix of fear and anger. The Terrans have mobilized 300 ships on a neutral world, cried the Varric representative. This is a violation of peace law. Another shouted, they claim it's a rescue mission, but we all know what happens when humans arrive in force. The Council's leader, a pale crystalline being known as the Archon, raised a hand to silence them. The Terrans have not attacked anyone, it said, but their presence in Varen space is concerning. A deep rumble spread through the chamber. Everyone remembered what happened when humanity last moved in unity. The old wars. Entire fleets burned to ash. Civilizations collapsed under the fury of Earth's retribution. When Terrans marched, the stars themselves trembled. That was generations ago. Yet the fear never left. The Archon turned to its advisors. Send a message to Earth, it ordered. They must stand down or face sanctions. The message was sent, but no response came. Back on Varen Prime, Kale was learning about humanity from Rian Holt, who was slowly regaining his strength aboard the Terran flagship Valiant Dawn. The medical bay was vast, bright, and alive with machines that hummed like gentle music. Kale walked through it in awe. You humans, you remember everything, he said softly, watching holographic records of Rian's old missions. Rian smiled faintly. Our archives go back thousands of years. Every name, every story, even small acts. He tapped his chest lightly. You're one of those now, Kale. A Varen who saved a human. That's not something my people forget. Kale looked uneasy. But your people frighten the galaxy. My council says your fleets destroy worlds. Rian's smile faded. We destroy only when we must. But yes, we have done terrible things. That's why kindness matters so much to us now. It reminds us we can still be better. Kale thought about that for a long time. He had always been told that mercy was weakness, but maybe it was something else, something stronger. Meanwhile, Admiral Koran stood in her command chamber, watching the holographic display of the galaxy. Red icons blinked around Varen Prime, council fleets moving into nearby sectors. They're coming, said her second officer, Commander Reyes. Looks like the council doesn't believe our intentions. Koran sighed. Of course they don't. Fear is the oldest enemy. She touched the display where Varen Prime glowed as a blue dot. Prepare defensive formations, but hold position. We won't fire unless provoked. Reyes frowned. And if they do? Koran's eyes hardened. Then they'll remember why they once feared us. On the surface, life was slowly returning to normal. Kale walked among his people again, though many looked at him with suspicion. To them, he was the one who had brought the humans here. Some called him a hero. Others whispered traitor. He tried not to listen. One evening, he returned to the ruins where he had first found Rian. The old pod still lay there, broken and silent. He knelt beside it and brushed the dust away. It started here, he murmured. One choice. He looked up at the stars, where the Terran ships glowed faintly, and now the whole galaxy watches. That night, in the quiet of the Valiant Dawn's bridge, an encrypted message reached Admiral Koran. It came from the Galactic Council. The message was short and cold. Withdraw your fleet immediately or face unified retaliation. Koran read it twice, then spoke softly. So it begins again. She sent a reply that carried across the stars. Humanity came in peace. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. In the council chambers, her words struck fear into every delegate. Some demanded war. Others urged caution. The Archon, watching the Terran fleets expand their orbit, whispered, "The shadows of the past are returning." Back on Varen Prime, Kale looked up at the sky as thunder rolled through the atmosphere. The stars flickered unnaturally. Rian stood beside him, leaning on a cane. "What's wrong?" Kale asked. Rian frowned. "That's not thunder. That's a fleet entering the system." Moments later, Terran scanners confirmed it. Multiple Council war groups dropping out of hyperspace. The alarms across the Valiant Dawn came alive. Multiple signatures detected. Class D dreadnoughts. Council fleet confirmed. Commander Reyes turned to Koran. "Orders, Admiral." Koran stared at the glowing icons surrounding Varen Prime. "Hold position. They'll test our patience first." She looked at the planet below. "Let's hope the Council remembers something we learned long ago, that mercy should never be mistaken for surrender." In the darkness of space, engines ignited and fleets formed lines. The galaxy held its breath. All of it, the tension, the history, the promises. It had begun from one simple act of kindness. And now, that act had brought shadows of war back to the stars. The Council fleets arrived like a storm. One moment, Varen Prime's orbit was quiet, filled only with the soft glow of Terran ships and the hum of communication beacons. The next, the void split open with ripples of blue light as hundreds of warships emerged from hyperspace. They came in perfect formation, massive dreadnoughts, cruiser walls, and swarms of escort vessels surrounding a flagship the size of a moon. The Council had come not to talk, but to show dominance. From the surface, the night sky looked alive, lit by the eerie shimmer of shields and the golden flash of thrusters. Every Varen who looked up that night felt the weight of history pressing down again. In the streets, people whispered in fear. Was war coming to their world because of one human? Admiral Koran stood tall on the command deck of the Valiant Dawn. Her face was calm, her eyes locked on the holographic projection of the approaching armada. "Open a wideband channel," she ordered. "Let's see if reason still exists among them." A few moments later, the image of the Council's Supreme Commander appeared, a towering insectoid with crystalline armor and a voice that carried like breaking glass. "Admiral Koran," it hissed, "you stand in violation of interstellar peace codes. Withdraw your forces from this system immediately, or face annihilation." The humans on the bridge exchanged tense glances. Koran remained silent for a moment, then said evenly, "We came to protect a friend, not to conquer. Your threats mean nothing to us." The alien commander leaned forward, mandibles twitching. "You protect one Varen? You bring an entire fleet for one life? How primitive. How absurd." Koran's tone hardened. "Perhaps that's why humanity survived what others did not. We remember those who helped us. Even one life matters to us." The screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge. "They'll attack," Reyes muttered. "Yes," Koran said softly, "and they'll regret it." Down on Varen Prime, Kale and Rian watched from a cliff overlooking the capital. The stars flickered with movement, each one a warship preparing for battle. "They don't understand," Rian said quietly. "To them, kindness is weakness. To us, it's a bond." Kale looked uneasy. "My people, they're terrified. If war starts here, Varen will burn." Rian turned to him. Then we stop it before it begins. The Council thinks we came to destroy them, but that's not why we're here. Maybe they just need to be reminded what humanity truly is." Kale frowned. "And what's that?" Rian smiled faintly. "Unpredictable." In the Council's war room, the debate was fierce. Some demanded immediate attack, claiming the Terrans were preparing an ambush. Others hesitated, recalling the legends of Earth's wrath. The Archon, presiding over the chaos, raised its crystalline hands. "Enough," it said, voice echoing like thunder. "The Terrans must be tested. Send one fleet forward. If they fire, the galaxy will know their true intent." The order was given. One battle group moved forward toward Varen orbit, shields flaring, weapons charged. Every Terran gun locked on them in response. For a long moment, neither side fired. The silence stretched thin, trembling with tension. Then, one of the Council's cruisers fired a warning shot, its plasma beam grazing the shield of a Terran frigate. The silence broke. The Valiant Dawn's sensors screamed alerts as weapon locks multiplied across the fleet. "They fired the first shot," Reyes said sharply. "Orders." Koran's eyes narrowed. "Disable, don't destroy. We're not here for war." The Terran response was precise and terrifying. Ion cannons fired in a synchronized wave, blue lightning cutting through the void. The first Council cruiser went dark instantly. Its systems shut down without damage. Within seconds, 5 more ships followed, drifting powerless. The rest fell back in confusion. The humans hadn't destroyed them. They had simply turned them off. Across the comms, the Council commander's voice shook with fury. "You dare humiliate us?" Koran replied coldly. "We dare to show restraint." Then she turned to her officers. "Hold position. They'll send more." On Varen Prime, people watched in awe as glowing streaks of light flashed across the sky, but never reached the ground. Kale's communicator buzzed. It was Koran's voice. "Kale, I need you and Rian to meet me at the surface relay. We're sending envoys. I want the Council to see who they're threatening." Kale hesitated but agreed. When they arrived, Terran shuttles landed quietly in the valley. From them emerged armored soldiers, silent, disciplined, and watching every movement. Rian, still weak but determined, walked beside Kale toward the landing zone. "You really think this will work?" Kale asked. "No," Rian said, "but it's the only chance we have." A few hours later, a Council envoy ship descended through the clouds. Its landing struts slammed into the dust beside the Terran outpost. A group of aliens emerged, their expressions cold and wary. The lead delegate, a tall, scaled creature with glowing red eyes, stepped forward. "We do not negotiate under threat," it said sharply. Koran met its gaze. "Neither do we. But we talk because there's still time to avoid bloodshed." The envoy looked between Koran, Rian, and Kale. "You brought us here for this Varen?" "For one life." Koran nodded. "Yes, because long ago, when the galaxy left one of our own to die, he found help from this world. You may not value mercy, but we do." The envoy's expression faltered for a second. "You would risk war for this." Koran smiled faintly. "Humanity doesn't risk war. We end it when it comes." The envoy turned away, clearly shaken. "Then may your mercy save you," it said before leaving. As the Council ship lifted off, Koran looked toward the stars. "They'll return with a larger force," she said. Rian nodded. "And the galaxy will finally see what happens when you corner humanity." Kale looked from one to the other, his heart heavy. "This all started because I pulled you from a wreck," he whispered. Rian smiled gently. "And because of that, an entire fleet came to protect you. Never forget that, Kale. Sometimes one act of kindness is louder than all the weapons in the galaxy." Above them, the Terran ships reformed their lines, shields glowing brighter as new signatures appeared on the horizon. The Council wasn't done yet, and neither was humanity. The real war for understanding was just beginning. The stars above Varen Prime had never looked so alive. Hundreds of ships now filled its orbit, their lights crossing like silent fireflies in the endless dark. The Terran fleet held formation, still calm, still disciplined, while the Council's armada expanded on the far edge of the system like a growing shadow. The galaxy was holding its breath. It was no longer just about a single man or a single planet. This was becoming something far greater. Every major power had begun to watch. Broadcasts of the standoff were being transmitted through deep space relays. Worlds that had not spoken the name Earth in centuries now whispered it again, with a mix of fear and wonder. Humanity, the ancient storm of the stars, had returned to stand for one act of mercy. Admiral Koran stood in the center of the Valiant Dawn's command deck, arms crossed behind her back. Her officers moved quietly around her, feeding her reports. "Council fleets expanding to Quadrant 3, said Reyes. "They're positioning planetary strike cruisers." Koran nodded slightly. "They'll try to corner us, force a reaction." Her voice was calm but heavy. Every decision now mattered. One wrong move, one misread signal, and the galaxy would fall into chaos. "Maintain defensive stance," she ordered. "Deploy the shield grid around Varen. No shots unless fired upon." Reyes hesitated. "And if they bring reinforcements?" Koran's eyes hardened. "Then they'll see what humanity built in the dark years." Down on the surface, Kale could feel the weight of what was coming. Varen Prime's skies glowed with faint blue light from the Terran orbital grid. The people were anxious, torn between awe and fear. Some Varen praised the humans for their protection. Others cursed them for bringing danger. Kale walked through the crowded markets, hearing their whispers. "The Terrans will bring war here. They'll destroy us all. Why did you help that human?" The voices cut deep. He didn't answer. He just kept walking toward the communications tower, where Rian waited. Rian had regained much of his strength, though his eyes still carried the shadows of his near-death. "They're afraid," Kale said quietly. Rian nodded. "Fear is easy. Understanding takes time." He turned to look at the sky. "And we may not have much of that left." The Galactic Council was losing control of the situation. In their great chamber, the Archon faced chaos. Dozens of species shouted accusations. "The Terrans are preparing for war. They've mobilized dreadnoughts without sanction. They must be stopped before it's too late." The Archon slammed its crystal hand on the table, sending a ripple of sound through the hall. "Enough. Humanity has made no aggressive action. Yet." A deep silence followed. "They claim to defend a world. We must know if this is truth or deception." A thin, reptilian delegate leaned forward. "You don't understand humans. They never come without purpose. They wait, and then they strike. They destroy entire empires if provoked." The Archon's voice grew colder. "And perhaps that is what we need to be reminded of." It paused, then gave the order. "Prepare the peace enforcement fleet. We will not allow Earth to rise again unchecked." Back in orbit, the tension was unbearable. The Council ships began sending out smaller patrols, testing Terran defenses. Terran ships shadowed them silently, their targeting systems active but restrained. Both sides danced on the edge of destruction. On the Valiant Dawn, the bridge lights dimmed as tactical displays filled the room. "Council drones are scanning our perimeter," reported Reyes. "Orders." Koran stared at the projection. "Disable them. No destruction." The fleet responded instantly. Beams of blue light lanced out, precise and measured, knocking the drones offline. The Council ships withdrew again, humiliated but unharmed. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed them easily, but chose not to. In the midst of this standoff, Rian and Kale stood inside the Terran relay base on Varen Prime. Rian was staring at a holographic map of the system. "They're cornering us," Kale said. "Why not just leave? Why risk everything?" Rian turned slowly. "Because this isn't about one world anymore. The Council wants to remind humanity of its place. But they've forgotten something important. We never had one." He tapped the display, zooming in on the approaching fleets. "They think they can intimidate us. But the Terran fleet you see above isn't our full strength." Kale frowned. "What do you mean?" Rian's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "Let's just say Earth always has a few surprises." Moments later, alarms echoed through both fleets. A massive spatial distortion appeared at the edge of the system. Every ship, Council and Terran alike, shifted sensors toward it. Space itself seemed to tear open, glowing with violent white light. From that rift, colossal silhouettes began to emerge, ships larger than any in known history, their hulls black as void, their engines burning with crimson light. The Terran fleet immediately sent identification signals. The Titan-class behemoths had arrived. The humans called them peacekeepers, but every species in the galaxy knew their name meant only one thing. War was close. On the valiant dawn, Koran's officers stared in awe. Reinforcements from Sol Command, Reyes whispered. They actually sent the Titans. Koran closed her eyes for a moment. So much for keeping this small. She opened a comm channel to the Council fleet. This is Admiral Koran. Humanity has come to stand for peace. But we will not kneel. Withdraw your forces now before you make a mistake you cannot undo. The Council commander responded moments later, his voice trembling but defiant. You think your monsters scare us? Koran's voice was calm but cold. Not monsters, she said. Reminders. The line went dead. Down below, the skies darkened again as shadows from the Titan ships covered the planet. Kale looked up in disbelief. They sent more. Rian nodded. No, they sent everything they needed to end this. His tone was quiet, but the look in his eyes was grim. The Council had pushed too far, and now humanity had answered not with words, but presence. The Terran fleet's formation shifted slowly, encircling Varen Prime in a shimmering protective ring. From orbit, the world looked like it was wrapped in a glowing cocoon of blue light. Kale whispered, They're protecting us. Rian nodded, and warning everyone else. The Galactic Council, watching from afar, realized too late what was happening. The balance of power had shifted. The humans were no longer a forgotten relic. They were once again the storm that could change the galaxy. But even as fleets prepared, Rian knew something no one else did. The Titans had not come to start a war. They had come to end it before it began. Humanity had learned long ago that true power was not in destruction, but in control. The Council just hadn't learned that lesson yet. The void around Varen Prime was no longer silent. The arrival of the Titan-class behemoths had changed everything. These ships were legends made real, colossal engines of power that moved like slow gods through space. Their armor shimmered with layers of adaptive plating, each capable of withstanding 1,000 plasma strikes. When their drives powered up, even nearby moons trembled. To the Council fleets, they were an impossible sight, a nightmare from humanity's forgotten wars. To the people of Varen, they were salvation made of metal and light. From the planet's surface, the behemoths appeared as dark streaks against the stars, their enormous hulls blotting out constellations that had shone for centuries. Kale stood outside the Terran relay, eyes wide as the night sky burned with their arrival. They're like planets, he whispered. Rian nodded slowly, his face unreadable. Each one carries the strength of 100 fleets, he said. They don't come unless Earth believes there's no other way. Kale swallowed hard. Then this means, it means, Rian said quietly. The Council just crossed a line. In orbit, the valiant Dawn and her fleet adjusted their positions, forming a defensive barrier in front of Varen Prime. The Titans took their place behind them, their gravity fields distorting space itself. Admiral Koran stood in silence on her bridge, watching as the Council fleet began to react. Hundreds of alien warships repositioned, their weapons locking on the human giants. They're scared, Commander Reyes muttered. So are we, Koran replied softly, though her tone was steady. But fear is better than arrogance. She gave a single command. Transmit our terms. A moment later, a system-wide broadcast began. Every ship, every colony, every listening post in the sector received the same message. This is Admiral Koran of the Terran Defense Armada. We are here to protect Varen Prime and its people. Humanity will not stand down, and we will not attack unless provoked. But if the Council fires a single shot toward this world, there will be no second warning. The message ended, and for a long moment, nothing moved. Then, across the void, the Council's response came, a message wrapped in threat and pride. Humanity has no authority beyond its borders. Withdraw immediately, or be declared enemies of galactic peace. Koran sighed. They never learn. She turned to her crew. Activate the planetary defense shield. If they want to test us, they'll have to go through it. Energy rippled through the fleet as the behemoths linked their cores, generating a vast energy barrier that enveloped Varen Prime. The shield shimmered faintly blue, an unbroken dome of light that stretched from orbit to the atmosphere. The Council fleet reacted instantly. "They've raised a planet-wide shield," one of their commanders shouted. "They've claimed the entire system." Orders spread quickly. "Target the generators. Fire warning volleys." Across the void, light burst as the first Council plasma strikes hit the shield. The impact was like thunder through the stars, but the barrier held strong. From the planet's surface, the people watched in awe as the sky flared with color, waves of energy dancing above them like auroras. "They're firing at us," Kale shouted. Rian grabbed his arm. "No, they're testing. They want to see if we'll retaliate." On the Valiant Dawn, Reyes looked at Koran. "Orders, Admiral." "Hold," she said firmly. "We won't be the first to escalate." But the Council wasn't finished. A second wave of attacks followed, larger, stronger, more coordinated. The barrier flickered slightly, drawing gasps from the Varen people below. Koran's expression hardened. "Reinforce the shield. Bring the Titans online." A moment later, the behemoth's cores pulsed, and their energy output doubled. The shield flared bright again, stronger than before. "Council forces increasing fire," Reyes reported. "If this continues, the planet's orbit might destabilize." Koran nodded. "Then it's time to send them a reminder." She opened a channel to the Council flagship. "Stand down now," she said coldly, "or watch your fleets fall without a single casualty." The alien commander's laughter echoed through the channel. "Empty threats, human." "No," Koran replied. "Demonstrations." She turned to her tactical officer. "Target their flagship's weapons array. Disable it only." The officer nodded and executed the order. One of the Titan-class behemoths shifted, its main cannon powering up. The ship's entire length glowed with red energy, and then a single beam of light flashed through the darkness. The Council flagship shook violently. Its forward cannons exploded in sparks, but the ship itself remained intact. "Weapons array disabled," the Terran officer confirmed. Across the Council formation, panic spread. If the humans could cripple a flagship with one shot, how long would it take for them to destroy an entire fleet? The alien commander's voice came back, now trembling. What is this power?" Koran's response was calm. "The power of restraint. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to." The line went silent. On the surface, the people of Varen cheered as the Council ships began to fall back. For the first time in living memory, Varen Prime was defended by a force greater than the Council itself. Kale turned to Rian, still in disbelief. "You could have destroyed them. Why didn't you?" Rian smiled faintly. "Because humanity remembers what destruction costs. We've seen what happens when the stars burn. This time, we protect instead of conquer." Kale looked at him, a strange respect forming in his eyes. "Your people fight differently than ours." "We learn to," Rian said quietly. "Every war teaches us what not to become." In the Council chamber, the news hit like thunder. "The Terrans disabled our flagship without destruction," shouted one delegate. "They could have wiped us out." The Archon's voice was grave. "They are not the savages we believe them to be." A deep unease filled the hall. "Then what are they?" someone asked. The Archon looked toward the hologram of the human fleet and said, "They are the balance we tried to erase." Back on the Valiant Dawn, Koran stared at the fading light of the Council fleet, withdrawing beyond the system's edge. "They'll be back," Reyes said. "I know," Koran replied. "But next time, it won't just be words. It'll be judgment." She looked out into the stars, where the behemoths waited in silence. And the galaxy will finally understand. Humanity's kindness isn't weakness. It's the line between peace and extinction. The Council had withdrawn, but the galaxy's tension had only grown. Varen Prime remained under the quiet watch of the Terran fleet, but everyone knew this peace was fragile. The Titans hovered like silent gods above the planet, their immense presence a constant reminder of Earth's return to power. On the surface, The people whispered in fear and awe. For generations, stories of Terran wrath had been told as cautionary tales, yet now those tales were real before their eyes. Kale walked among the ruins, surveying the aftermath of the standoff. Buildings were scarred, streets cracked from the tremors of distant energy discharges, but no lives had been lost. Humans had fought without killing. That realization struck him with disbelief. He had always believed war meant bloodshed. Not this time. They fight differently, he said quietly to Rian, who leaned on his cane, staring at the horizon. Yes, Rian replied. And they judge differently too. Kale frowned. Judge differently? Rian nodded slowly. Humanity doesn't just punish. We evaluate. We decide if the threat is immediate, if it can be contained, and then we act. Always measured, even when it terrifies everyone watching. Kale shook his head. Measured destruction, it sounds like madness. Rian's lips curved into a faint smile. Or clarity. In orbit, Admiral Koran had not relaxed. The Council had retreated, but the warning signs were everywhere. Scouts reported movement across several systems, the Council mobilizing forces, dispatching reinforcements to strategic points. They're testing us, Reyes said, pacing the bridge. Every movement they make is a challenge. Koran remained silent, studying the data feeds. Let them test, she said finally. We respond, but only to protect what matters. She looked down at Varen Prime, its twin suns reflecting on the hull of the Valiant Dawn. We will not destroy unless destruction is forced upon us, but the galaxy will understand our judgment before that day comes. Meanwhile, Kale and Rian had been invited aboard the Valiant Dawn to witness the operational coordination of the Terran fleet. Kale had never imagined such a machine. Ships moving as one, communication instantaneous across light years, defensive shields linked so that a single attack on one vessel affected none of the others. He watched in awe as simulations of Council reinforcements were run, seeing how humanity anticipated every possible move, every contingency, with precision that left him breathless. We fight for lives, not pride, Rian said quietly, reading Kale's expression. Every ship you see, every system we use, it's to save, not to conquer. But if we are forced, we strike decisively. Kale nodded slowly, beginning to understand. So the galaxy fears you because you are fair. Rian's smile was faint but full of meaning. Not fair, just decisive. The first Council retaliation came within days. A small fleet of dreadnoughts and cruisers entered Varen Prime's sector, weapons ready, intent clear. On the Valiant Dawn, alarms blared as the fleet formed defensive positions. Koran's voice echoed through the ship. Deploy the behemoths. Shields up. No shots unless provoked. The Council ships fired first, a volley of plasma lances aimed at human cruisers. The Terran response was swift. Titans moved into position, their energy cores pulsing, generating defensive pulses that disabled Council weapon systems without causing fatalities. Every strike was precise, surgical, leaving the ships powerless, but intact. Kale watched from the observation deck, gripping the railing. He had never seen power like this. The Council had underestimated humanity's restraint. They had only revealed it to those foolish enough to attack. The communication line from the Terran flagship to the Council flagship opened. Koran's voice was calm but carried authority. Your forces are disabled. You may retreat. Humanity does not desire war with those who do not provoke it. Consider this your judgment. The alien commander hissed, fury shaking his voice. You humiliate us. No, Koran replied evenly. We remind you. The line cut abruptly, leaving the Council fleet in stunned retreat. Their systems would need hours to recover. Across the galaxy, observers recorded the encounter, and the stories would spread like wildfire. Humans did not kill when they could. They disabled, restrained, and demanded accountability. On Varen Prime, Kale and Rian returned to the ruins where it all began. The old city lay quiet, scarred by tremors, but alive. People came out of hiding, staring up at the orbiting titans, whispering about mercy that had the weight of gods. They could have destroyed the Council fleet completely, Kale said, still in disbelief. and they chose not to. Rian nodded. Because one life matters. And so does the future. Kale glanced at the horizon, where the last council ships vanished into the void. Do you think they'll return? Rian's eyes were steady. Yes, but the galaxy knows now that humanity's judgment is swift, precise, and merciful. They'll think twice before testing us again. Kale realized then that the fear of humans wasn't just in the weapons. They feared the certainty of our choices. Above them, the Terran fleet remained vigilant. The Titans pulsed faintly in the darkness, a promise etched in light and energy. Admiral Koran stood silently on her bridge, watching Varen Prime below. One act of kindness, she said softly to herself. One choice made long ago, and the galaxy has been reminded of what humanity can do. In the distance, signals from council-controlled sectors flickered, messages of retreat, fear, and calculation. Humanity had judged, and it had done so without spilling unnecessary blood. Kale looked up at the stars, feeling a mix of awe and hope. He knew that Varen Prime would never be the same, and neither would the galaxy. In that quiet moment, Rian placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. The storm is not over, he said. But today, humanity has shown its line, and any who cross it will see what mercy looks like when it is measured and absolute. Kale nodded, understanding at last. One life, one choice, had changed the fate of worlds, and now the galaxy knew the weight of a human promise. The battle for Varen Prime's skies had ended, but the reverberations stretched across the galaxy. The Council's fleets had retreated, their pride shattered and their systems humiliated. Yet the story of what had occurred would travel faster than any fleet. Humanity had come, not to conquer, but to honor a promise, and in doing so, they had reminded every species that mercy could carry more power than any weapon. From the surface, Kale looked up at the stars, now filled with Terran ships forming a protective halo above Varen Prime. The glow of the Titan-class behemoths painted the night sky with streaks of blue and red, their presence a silent vow that the planet and its people were under the guardianship of Earth's fleet. "It's beautiful," Kale whispered. Rian, standing beside him, nodded. "It's more than that. It's a warning, a lesson, and a promise all at once." Across the planet, life began to return, slowly but with hope. The streets once filled with panic were now alive with cautious curiosity. Terran engineers repaired damaged infrastructure, offered medical aid, and shared knowledge of energy grids and shield technology. Farmers learned new irrigation methods, and students studied Terran history, fascinated by the stories of a species that remembered favors and punished only when necessary. Even the Varen soldiers, who had once sworn loyalty only to their council, began to witness the discipline and honor of the humans, their fear gradually giving way to respect. Kale walked among them, seeing the change in their faces. "Do you think they'll come back?" one soldier asked quietly. Kale shook his head. "I don't know. But if they do, it won't be for revenge. It will be to keep the balance." In orbit, Admiral Koran surveyed Varen Prime from the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. The stars were calm again, but her senses remained alert. Reports from scouts and probes filtered in. Council fleets reorganizing in nearby sectors, intelligence gathering, and whispers of unease among allied systems. "They'll recover," Reyes said, frowning. "And they'll try again." Koran nodded, her face hardening. "Yes, but next time, they will remember the mercy we showed, and they will hesitate. Humanity's reputation is not built on aggression, but on certainty. One act of restraint can echo across light years." Her gaze drifted down toward the planet, where Kale and Rian walked among the people, their steps quiet but firm. "Every life we protect reinforces that truth," she whispered. On the surface, Kale and Rian returned to the ruins where it had all begun. The broken structures, once symbols of decay and death, now stood as monuments to resilience. Kale knelt beside a crumbled wall, tracing the etched marks left by generations. "I never imagined a small choice could lead to this," he said quietly. Rian rested a hand on his shoulder. "It's not small. One life saved can ripple across the stars. One promise kept can shape history." Kale looked at him, understanding at last. The humans had come because one of their own had been aided, and their response had shown the galaxy that compassion was their strength, not their weakness. Far beyond Varen Prime, the Galactic Council convened again. The chambers were filled with tension. Delegates argued endlessly, trying to understand how a single human fleet had changed the balance of power without firing a single killing shot. "We were humiliated," one delegate spat. "And for what? One Varen? One human?" The Archon's crystalline form remained still, its voice calm but carrying weight. "We underestimated them. Humanity has returned to remind the galaxy of its rules. We must tread carefully, or we risk provoking what we cannot defeat." Across sectors, alarms and communication channels buzzed as council leaders debated their next move. Fear of humanity's judgment had replaced arrogance. Meanwhile, Kale and Rian stood atop a hill overlooking the capital city. The twin suns rose, casting gold and crimson light across the planet. "Do you think humanity will leave us?" Kale asked. Rian shook his head. "They may move on, but the memory remains. You, Kale, and every Varen who acted with courage and mercy, will be remembered. That is the true power they bring." Kale looked up at the sky, where the Terran fleet glimmered like a web of guardians. "A promise and a warning," he murmured. Rian smiled faintly. "Yes, one act of kindness created an entire legacy. And now, the galaxy knows that a human promise is not broken lightly." On the Valiant Dawn, Admiral Koran prepared the fleet to move out. Sensors reported the Council forces slowly withdrawing, intelligence networks spreading news of Terran restraint, and allies sending cautious greetings. The humans had made their mark, not through devastation, but through presence, precision, and unwavering principle. Koran looked at the holographic map of the system. "Varen Prime is safe," she said softly. "For now. But the galaxy will remember what mercy truly looks like, and the consequences of ignoring it." Her officers nodded, understanding the silent power of restraint, the lesson embedded in every Titan-class ship circling the planet. Humanity had come not to conquer, but to preserve, and in doing so, they had written a legacy that would echo across centuries. As the fleet slowly disengaged, rising into the void, Kale and Rian watched in silence. The people of Varen gathered below, whispering and pointing at the glowing ships above. "Will they return?" Kale asked once more. "Perhaps," Rian said, "but they don't need to. The galaxy will think twice before testing them again. We have seen the line in the stars, and it is ours to respect." Kale nodded, feeling the weight of history settle upon him. One small act of kindness had not only saved a life, it had saved a world, and reminded the galaxy that humanity's strength was measured not in destruction, but in the courage to act with mercy. Above them, the stars burned bright, the Terran fleet a permanent watchful eye. The legacy of mercy had begun, and no force in the galaxy would forget it.